Namaste, Jay Bharat. Geopolitics is something that haunts each conscious human, each thinking human, day in and day out these days. Whether we like it or not, geopolitics haunts and haunts us. Geopolitics is a concept in which you have no element of ethics, nothing like dharma, nothing like righteousness, nothing like anything that's positive. It's a kind of game which heartless people play heartily. It's a game that everyone is in and everyone takes for granted and everyone equally thinks it's right. All kinds of things happening in and around us, in front of us, behind our back, all kinds of things. This, of course, indicates, it shows a direction. It indicates how human existence has deteriorated from a conceptual ideal plane to something very nasty and a subaltern is too good a word, something very nasty and inhuman. Yet, there are huge talks and songs about humanism. All humanism and humanitarian thoughts, things like that, things like that. Everything appears to be farce. It's something that's very strange. Let's think about a universal principle that which cannot end must have not begun. Or, in other words, that which began must end in capital letters. Now think about our human existence. At some insignificant point in time, our lives began, and some yet another insignificant point in time, we will cease to exist. So, this period between your birth and death, that's beginning and cessation. It's not a long period at all, it's a very short, small period which you have no means to extend. I don't know, in future people may continue to live for long periods, I don't know, but then it's funny, There's a old story of Bharat that one Maharshi seemed to have invented a potion that would give life for long, and one king sends his son to obtain that potion to that particular place. His son goes to that place and meets the Maharshi and comes back to his father without taking that potion. And upon his father asking him, why didn't take the potion? He says, no, I couldn't afford to see you suffering because that potion only prolongs his life. But his aging process can't be stopped. His aging process is not stopped. Just imagine a person who becomes too weak and too impossible to exist but yet can't die. He has to lie down and be conscious about all the sufferings day in and day out. So the son who loves his father did take that potion and said, this is the situation. I've seen that Maharshi who has taken that medicine for himself, and his son told all the stories to this man and requested him not to ask him for the potion because that's going to destroy your father's life forever. Whatever he is lost. So death is a thing that one should think about. Any human being who's trying to think that he is beyond, he is something great, should also think about his death. And towards that, I would suggest a small exercise. If everyone can do it, it's all the best. I think this thing may make some differences to the world. I just ask you to do some exercise, just one exercise, that is, please try to read or obtain information about the last days of all great people. People who were great, along with their names, this person the great, that person the great is added. Though I'm not taking any name of anyone because I am just asking you to read and find out the last days of so-called great people, you find out, please, and then compare those last days of these people with the brighter days in younger days. Just think how, from what they became what. What's the point that you are going to end at this stage like this? Through miseries, there may be very few people who are very fortunate who didn't have to suffer in their later days. But everyone suffers in the later days, this way or the other. That's what I understand. But there must have been very, very great people who dies in peace, peacefully. Those stories are more in Bharatiya history. There are many such stories. But you think about so-called great people in the world and how they died towards end, and what kind of suffering they had to endure, and put yourself in that place. No matter in whichever situation you are in, finding that you are something, you have such feelings. You are beyond, you have such feelings. Please read the stories of the last days of others, and also make a speculation about how things will end in your days. When your days come, how things will end. Actually, there is no way to stop death as on today, as on now. They may find out some means to prolong life, but I don't think any kind of scientific investigation or science can create happiness in people's mind, comfort in people's minds, and a sense of completion in people's mind. In Sanskrit there's a word, samtrupti. Yes, you're content, you're happy. That thing, will it happen to people? Will it happen to me? Please think. Most people might die with many unfulfilled desires. Of course, everyone has unfulfilled desires, but to die with such intense unfulfilled desires is miserable. Where Buddha says that you will be taking rebirth because of that, because birth, rebirth, death, rebirth cycle is very vicious according to him. His entire philosophy talks about breaking that cycle and escaping from that cycle. So you don't want to be born again. Please think that the life is too short. It was yesterday you were 17 years. Today you are 69 years. It was yesterday. And today you just don't know how time passes. You just don't know how time passed. You even did not know what all things you did in life. You were in a rush. If people realize that they will end up with nothing, and if people give some time to think in this direction, perhaps righteousness may come back to considerable extent in this world. The kind of deep states and geopolitics and all those things which indeed disturbs human peaceful coexistence, we'll have to understand that nothing is permanent. We'll meet again with some other thought. Till then, Namaste, Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Ram.